Okay, and we are rolling. So, what I wanted to open up today is touching on your experiences and understanding of the state of Hawaii and the overthrow of the kingdom, essentially. So, let's start with when you were growing up. What was your belief system? Like, what did you know to be true in terms of Hawaii and statehood and America? Like, what did you believe growing up?
Well, growing up, I grew up, I was born right after statehood, or just before statehood. So as far as my understanding was that Hawaii was part of the United States, and the people that lived in Hawaii had agreed to be part of the United States, and basically Hawaii was in the old system in Hawaii was totally gone, and we had become part of America. So it was more or less, you wanted to be and learn as much as you could in this new, which wasn't new, but newer way of trying to assimilate into the United States. And I grew up with the understanding that basically we wanted to be part of America, and so that's what it was. Mm-hmm. A lot of my childhood memories was having an uncle who was in the military. He was kind of my idol. He served in Vietnam he was serving in Vietnam when I started to really, understand, and I think I was like first, second grade or something. And, he was part of the military, and all I knew was, we were Hawaiians. We were fighting for America, and we were just part of America from then on. And, in my day, we were, you'd pledge allegiance to the flag every morning before class. That was the first thing you did before you started classes. You pledged allegiance and faced the flag with your heart on your chest, your hand on your heart. And it was, everybody was taught the same thing. Everybody in school was taught the same thing. But there was this sense that Hawaiians were not as smart as the other kids. And we definitely didn't have the same economic or financial status as the rest of the people. My grandparents, they lived pretty well. My grandfather, he worked for the light company. He was a truck driver. And so he made good money. We lived, in a pretty nice place. I didn't start understanding the overthrow. I knew a little bit about it while I was in the military. I joined when I was 20 years old, and I served until I was 29, almost 10 years. and I didn't understand that there even was an overthrow until about midway through my military career. And it was going to be my career. I was I was lucky enough that because of my shooting skills, I had represented Hawaii in shooting tournaments for about 6 years, from 1980 to about 86. In 85 is when I got a full-time position with the National Guard, which is like the highest degree of military service that you could get in the National Guard, because you were full-time active duty but assigned to a National Guard unit. So that became my full-time job, and I stayed there for about almost 4 years. At the end of that, I went through a divorce from my first wife, and things got so crazy. I had to resigned my position after working so hard for so many years, because I was about to lose it. And I mean, I really would have hurt somebody. I was a danger to myself and others at that point. So I gave up my job, got a divorce, and had to start all over. That was pretty much when I went to Ka'u and started learning Apubi and Hawaiian again. Then I started, getting more of the story, what had happened, and then that's when I started, reading. And there was no internet at that time. That was late. I got out of the military in 88. 89, almost 89, so it was 88. And started listening to the Hawaiians that lived there. And they understood that there was an overthrow. The elders had been, teaching their kids. And those kids were the ones that I started hanging out with. And we'd have meetings down at the beach where I lived anyway, and where most of the guys hung out, like here at Kealakekua. And then started to get the understanding, wait a minute now, something's different here. It's not what I learned growing up or what I understood. So it was quite a different awakening, but everything was a new life. Being not in the mainstream. And when I first went to Ka'u, I had nothing but the stuff I had in my backpack. So yeah, it was pretty interesting to learn, how the overthrow happened, the situation that led to the overthrow, the death of the king Kalakaua on a trip to the mainland, how he died aboard a ship from some kind of sickness, and then his sister had taken over. How she was quite disillusioned by America. The Bayonet Constitution gave Westerners the same or more rights than the native people. At the beginning of the, the change in religion is when many Hawaiians went to the one God theory, read the Bible, to the generation after that didn't agree with what happened and kept that that fire of inside of them, that the anger that this is all wrong. Maybe that the Hawaiian people should have stood up to the foreign powers taking control of Hawaii. And that was still alive in Ka'u, where I went and started learning about being Hawaiian. So it was quite different, and then years after, I lived in Ka'u for 9 years. And Keanusai didn't come on the scene till maybe 5 years into that 9. And that's when we started putting on summer program down at South Point. We had a group, Ke'ohana Okalai, which is the family of South Point, which is basically, all the people of Ka'u trace their lineage back to those first people that came to Hawaii on what some of us believe was that initial landing. Western man says that that's the first place that people lived on these islands, down at South Point. But yet I look at places like Kapoho or Kalapana, where what was once a village or homes or a place where people lived is now covered by 20 feet of lava. So then I started to question the belief that we came from someplace else. Maybe we were here all the time and a lot of those places just got covered over, or that time, like in Waipio Valley, where people had been living in Waipio Valley for hundreds of years, and you go down there today and you can't even imagine people living here 100 years. It's there's nothing left of them. So what's to say that we weren't here, not that we weren't here a lot longer than modern man says we were. And that's where you go to like the continent of Wu, and how some people say that, some elders say that we didn't come from any place, we were here. I guess that belief comes from the Kumulipu, which starts the whole creation of us as people. And so the overthrow, I guess the best detailed or best documented facts come from Keanusai and his research and how his studies into the overthrow of Hawaii. And the realization that unless more people know the truth, it's never going to go back in a manner that's acceptable for most of the Hawaiian people, because a lot of people have different concepts of what it should be, who should be in charge, how we even get there, how do we reestablish this the system that was in place? Do we rewrite everything all over? Do we go back to that, Queen Ilokalani's time? It's, like I said, it's complicated. It's just this big, huge ball. A nation within a nation is one concept. That's probably that's the easiest for everyone to accept. A nation within a nation would allow Western man and its economic system, the way things are today, will continue on. And maybe, Hawaiians or people that want to become citizens of the new nation can change their political status as far as being an American citizen, a United States citizen, or a subject in the Kingdom of Hawaii. That's probably the system that eventually will be established. Right now there's nothing being said, but within the past 10, 15 years there was a big push, and it seemed like something was going to happen, and then it pretty much fell apart, mostly because people started to understand that this whole nation within a nation thing is what America wants, not exactly what Hawaiian people want. And then again, you get to where, nation within nation, we're still around the bottom rung of things as far as the land, our place within the financial system, to go back to being the Kingdom of Hawaii, and only that, it brings up a lot more opposition, because nobody wants to lose what they have here. A lot of people have, this is home. Their families have spent generations here building something, and if you went back to a different system, they'd probably lose what they have. It would probably be a redistribution of land and finances. So it's a tough thing, The overthrow was, today we understand that it was wrong. It was not legal. It wasn't, treaties were not honored by all the countries, pretty much all the countries of the world. Everybody stood back as the United States took over Hawaii. And then in the 1800s, the late 1800s, America was, one of the most powerful countries. And that's probably why, England, France, all the other countries of the world just said, okay, it's yours now. And you guys have, established a system, and it was quite the well thought out fraud that's been going on for 100+ years. It's hard to conceive how it can happen, and even till today it still goes on. And that's probably why a lot of Hawaiians still, they have a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, a lot of hate, because nothing's been done. It's been talked about a whole lot, but yet still nothing. Virtually nothing. There's been no change, no open consideration to changing what already is. And so it's to a lot of us that say, it's the only way Hawaii and Hawaiians going to survive is by accepting what's happened and be tolerant to the whole overthrow. But like a lot of us know, maybe if the word goes out to more people, and the more support we get from outside, because that's the part that's holding everything back is, the outside of Hawaii. They want Hawaii to stay the way it is. We have the military and its strategic placement in Hawaii, and then you get the economics of all the financial investment into the land and the outside influence of money that keeps us locked into this way of life and the way things are. So for myself, I know that should some change come about, not going to be in my lifetime, maybe in my descendants, but I don't actually see it happening unless there's a total meltdown of the world. That it'll never happen. Just being realistic and being looking at it from both sides.
Yeah.
It's not something that's gonna.
But like Keanu says, it's like the more we expose it, right? The more that there is potential for something at some point, right?
Something at some point.
More people have to know for there to be any something at some point.
Correct.
Right?
And that's.
And it's and I know for me, it was really kind of like understanding a bit more of the context, right? Of kind of who the Hawaiian people were in the 1800s, how advanced, right? And at least for me, that's what allowed me to kind of really link in puzzle pieces so I could feel it in an emotional way, where it then becomes, like we were saying the other day, like undeniable,
Yeah.
So maybe you just want to share a little bit of your knowledge of how like advanced and progressive the kingdom was.
Those in charge, or the monarchy at the time, these rulers traveled to different countries so that they could get an idea of how other nations operated, and it was just trying to get more examples of the new world and how best to bring Hawaii into that, or become part of that new world. And that's where, Kalakaua, he was open to new ideas, new ways, and like electricity, street lights. Hawaii was the first place to have street lights in the city, and that was Kalakaua. That was the ruler, the king at the time. So yeah, he was pretty open to trying to bring Hawaii into more of the Western world, and yeah, that's pretty much what I know of the overthrow. And I myself have been one of those that peacefully oppose the system in place, because like anything else, once you know the truth, it's hard to go back. It's hard to say, oh well, I'm part of this new world here in Hawaii, and I should just give up my old, or the beliefs that I have, and just say, okay, well, I'm part of this new system, and continue on with that. For me, that would be quitting, and I'm not a quitter. So I continue to not comply a lot of times, although I have ID, because to be able to function in this today, you gotta have ID. No ID, you're not gonna have no bank account, no way of living and progressing in this ever-changing life or world. Yeah. Today, a debit card, or first was cash, money, and now it's changing from money to numbers on a card. I mean, everything and it's for me. I look at it as the convenience. It's so much more convenient, so it's more readily used than physically going to the store or buying things. Before you bought something, you'd have to go to the store and buy it. Today you can order online, and it comes in the mail, or it's delivered to your home. So I've had to compromise my peaceful protest. That's how I put it. So it's been a lot, and it's gonna remain to be a lot. The older system was that you'd work the land, and the land would provide you with your needs. I was taught Aloha was to treat everybody on the same level until they hurt or harm you. Then you understand which ones you can trust, you can share and get back Aloha. So, I mean, there was a time where I'd put out Aloha to people, and as soon as they stopped giving Aloha out, okay, you're out, cut the line and just, push you to the side next. Because there's so much every day, new people are coming. And if I've spent time to share aloha with someone that just didn't get it, then I need to move on and find, open myself up to others that might get it or might not, but reach out and keep trying to share that aloha, where the harder it gets, the more love you should put out. So that was a lesson that I learned kind of the hard way, because I had a girlfriend at one point. She was, she was super, and because of my rigid understanding, we eventually broke up, and she went her way and I went mine, and it didn't have to be that way. If I had just been more compassionate, maybe is the word, that wouldn't have gone that way. But all things happen for a reason, so I just got to believe that it was for the best. So yeah.
Would you say that knowledge of the overthrow is kind of like a common knowledge now between most Hawaiians that live here, or are there still some people that are...
I think that more Hawaiians, or most of the Hawaiian people, understand that there was an overthrow. I mean, you got to be hiding under a rock not to understand. So, yeah, I think all Hawaiians understand the overthrow, understand the unjust way it was done, the unjust way it's held in place. It's just hypocritical, of America to say one thing and be this open, fair, of the people, for the people, by the people. I don't see it as being anything like that anymore. It's of those in charge, for those in charge, to keep themselves being in charge. And that's just the way it is. And my ever-evolving understanding is that, it's always been like that. The Western world has always been like that. And maybe all peoples have been like that, where, even from the elite system here, the elites were kept in place because they kept saying that they were part of, the gods and descendants of the gods. And so that right there, it's like anywhere else in the world, that those who were in charge are still in charge, from the beginning of time. Those rulers who ruled pretty much held on by whatever means to stay in charge. And it's never changed. In America, we have presidents that are in charge, but there's a lot of theories that those who seem to be in charge aren't, and what's in charge is money, wealth, and it's probably always going to stay like that, unless there's another great flood. Something similar to that.
Something similar to that. Maybe it's, an energetic flood of people, a flooding of our hearts, That's at least what I'm aiming for. And
that would be
knowing,
a nice way for it to happen.
Yeah. That's at least what I'm aiming for, and in learning more about the true history of Hawaii and like applying the story and even like kind of what you mentioned the other day was really interesting about like the prehistory potentially of Hawaii.
Yeah, well, my belief is, and that belief comes from the elders, that in the very beginning, those who were in charge were the elders of families. And to many Hawaiians, all Hawaiians are started from the same place. Pretty much the same way the Bible says, everybody comes from Adam and Eve, were the first two, and Hawaiians pretty much believe the same thing. That's why in Ka'u, a lot of the family names there, you find them throughout the islands. And when you keep digging and digging, you find out that, oh yeah, they once came from the Big Island, and more specifically from the Ka'u district. And so I guess that's what gives Western man more of its makes their beliefs more solid, that was the initial place of the start of the Hawaiian people. That we voyaged here from someplace else, and the first land you would probably find is the Big Island. It is the biggest island. Mauna Kea is the tallest thing in the Pacific. So there's no doubt that from if you're voyaging to a new land, as the stories say, that the first thing you're going to see is Mauna Kea. And so why not head towards there? And South Point is the first part of the Big Island, or of Hawaii. So logically you're going to assume that that's where the first peoples came from or landed. And that's where it all started from.
But the thought from the elders is that Hawaiians started there, like originated there, didn't come from someplace else. Yeah. And there's the thought too that potentially like the Ali'i were from someplace else.
The Ali'i and its system, its first development came from Kalapana or Puna district. That's the first sacrificial heiau, or the first heiau, was believed to be in that area. And so that's how the Ali'i system first started in Hawaii, was from Tahitians that landed there and brought their beliefs and their ways, and eventually it could have been, I'm not totally in the understanding if, from being a families run system, by elders, to this new system. And if you look at America's development, those that came with more aggressive ways, I guess you could say, eventually took over. I mean, even, like the Indians that had first opposed Western man or the white man, because of their technological and maybe more aggressive way of dealing with people, allowed them to take over because, from a small number of white men, how could they take over an entire country?
And it's something that we see cycling throughout time. If people are willing to look in the right direction and have aloha in their hearts, there's something here in Hawaii that is like easily accessible or easily understood, I really feel, to help us to access a way to potentially decolonize our world. And that just leads me to so thank you for going into that. I wasn't sure if we were going to go into that, but I think it is an important part of the story that even perhaps there's even a prehistoric Hawaiian culture that's kind of been lost.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And if you're in a culture that's has no written language, everything is passed down orally, it's easy to lose a lot of the wisdom when you have 9 out of 10 people die within 50 years. There's no chance to teach.
Yeah. I think that's the case for most of the world, is most of our true culture has been lost, but it survives in people like yourself. It does survive in all of us, and the ability to find it always starts with aloha,
Right.
Like it's all of our collective story, but again, there's something that's really specific and precise about understanding the story of Hawaii that I really believe allows all of us to understand in our own way not only Hawaii's story and to be able to share that and understand that, but utilize that, because it touches your heart when you can't help but like feel it once you see it. Like we've said, it's undeniable, and what that type of energy has the ability to do is to activate individuals' own understanding of a story that is not just Hawaiian but human, right? And how do we really utilize that?
I guess that's part of something that's in us all.
Yeah.
That's what it's part of being a human being, I guess. It's in our DNA. It's already implanted in us to want to be more loving and more open and to receive the same thing back. And so that's what makes it possible for more growth in aloha or in loving one another, where disliking and hating is easy, but it's so much easier to be open and loving. And a lot of us, and that's part of that whole busyness that doesn't allow or makes it harder for you to find that place. Everybody's, trying to keep up with the next and being part of the system, because the system is what's going on. Like I said, with giving up more and more of your belief, or more unwillingness to be taken in by the whole lie that makes it that keeps the lie going, pretty much. You know, the busyness, the static out there in the world, the need to be able to provide for yourself, your family, and you know the love you have for your family is, you know, has a lot to do with your driving, the driving force within people that want to provide and come to the place where, you know, being able to provide is becoming more like the system in charge. And so the more opposition there is, or the harder it is to provide, the less time you have to ponder what ifs and could it change, and because you're so busy with just trying to keep up with everything, that's given a lot less energy and time. And that's when, you know, more people try to get away from that and understand that, you know, that's not what they really want. It gives them the opportunity to be more open, more compassionate to others, more willing to learn, and the time to really understand what is true and what is, you know, false. So yeah, I see a lot of I see that those in power, they want to keep that smoke screen going and just keep it. I mean, and you see that in all the countries, different countries, the more the people are fighting fighting amongst themselves. And that's something that the Hawaiian elders keep trying to teach to the next generations is the more Hawaiians fight amongst themselves, the more we feed into the, you know, that cloud or that static that keeps us divided. The more division, the less ground you make, because you're scattered all over, and that's the problem that Hawaiians have today, is not being able to all sit down and say, this one way is the way we should go. There's too much argument into who's right in that path, the way we should be going, opposed to you know, putting aside everything else and just going for that one basic goal, is, you know, being our own. And that's just, I guess that's just human nature, that everybody wants to be right. And how you perceive, or how much you accept one viewpoint over the next. So yeah, it's a long, hard road. I mean, you know, just like people that wanna have change, it's pretty much with everything that's happening in the world. You know,
and this recording, what we're doing, you sharing, is just one example of one way that we can listen to each other and take in stories and feel each other's hearts, and that's the only way that we'll begin to, I think, expand or kind of like grow up enough to start aiming for a common goal, you know? And I think we will expand and grow up. I think that's the process we're going through, but it starts, you know, with sharing like what we're doing and with other people listening and taking in stories. And again, I think this is a really important story to understand on a lot of levels. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Macky. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to do this, It's important that the word gets out and more people take the time to listen and make their own judgment, decide for themselves what is the undeniable truth, and how Native peoples have always depended on the land, nature, and taking care of nature so nature can take care of you. Because it's been around a whole lot longer than man has. So the better we can understand that, the better we can protect it and continue on as people. Because at the rate we go, eventually one day we're going to end up killing ourselves all off. Then we're going to go right back to just being an empty land. So cool.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Macky. I love you, Macky.
I love you too.